Hi, my name is Anna Collins and I'd like to talk to you about fats. Did you know that your body is made of 1 trillion cells, and each of those cells that make up you has a cell membrane which controls nutrients coming into your cell and toxic waste leaving your cell. So the right sort of fats are needed in order to make those cell membranes work efficiently in every part of your body. Your bones, your brain, your cartilage, your skin, your intestines, they all need the right sort of fats so that the cell membranes can work properly. So first fat I want to talk to you about is one of the essential fats, and this essential fat is a fat that basically you need to eat because your body can't make it for itself. And this essential fat is called omega-3, and more specifically DHA and EPA, which are the powerful components in omega-3 which are good for our cell membranes. So omega-3, the powerful part of it is made of DHA and EPA, and this is found in fish, and it's found at its highest levels in oily fish. So that is things like salmon, sardines, mackerel, trout. So those are very, very high in EPA and DHA. There are plant sources of omega-3 as well, but the plant sources have omega-3 in a form which our body needs to convert into EPA and DHA, and this conversion is not efficient. So in somebody that's very, very healthy and they're eating omega-3 plant foods like walnuts and pumpkin seeds and lots of dark green leafy vegetables, their body is going to be able to convert a tiny amount of that omega-3 into EPA and DHA, which are the powerful components that our body needs to incorporate into cell membranes. So the best source of EPA is really oily fish, and oily fish you do need to be careful of because there are certain oily fish that can be quite high in contaminants. So tuna fish, for example, can be very, very high in mercury, and this is because tuna is a big fish which eats smaller fish, and every time you get that food chain, the animals of fish near the top of the food chain are higher in contaminants. You also need to be a little bit careful of farmed oily fish. If you eat a lot of farmed salmon, for example, non-organic farmed salmon in particular, you could be getting quite high levels of a contaminants called PCBs. And so it's important to strike a balance. Try and eat wild oily fish, so that would be things like mackerel and sardines. If you eat farmed oily fish, maybe keep it to once or maximum twice a week. You can also use tinned fish, and tinned wild salmon is available. It's not very expensive in the shops. Tinned fish can be quite good. Up to once a week will be fine. Again, tins are a little bit of a problem because the linings contain a contaminant called bisphenol A, which leaches into fatty or acidic foods in the tins. So tinned wild fish up to once a week would be fine, and the ideal intake of omega-3 for somebody that's already in peak physical and health condition would be about 3 times a week, a nice generous serving of oily fish about 3 times a week. And that could be, for example, smoked mackerel once a week, a tin of salmon, or 2 half tins of salmon spread over the week, and maybe a piece of fresh fish, maybe farmed organic salmon, or better still wild fish like mackerel or sardines. If you have a health issue, it's quite possible you might need a high potency, high dose omega-3 or EPA and DHA supplement for at least 90 days in order to get you out of deficiency and get your cell membranes starting to work better. But you do need to be careful about supplements because many of them are contaminated, and the general rule of thumb for omega-3 supplements is if it's really cheap, you shouldn't touch it with a barge pole because proper processing of omega-3 fats is very expensive. It needs to be done in the absence of oxygen and also in a very, very low temperature environment. So cheap omega-3 supplements are really not a good idea. Let's talk a little bit about the other family of essential fats that we need to eat in our diet because our bodies can't make them, and that is omega-6 fats. And those are found in nuts and seeds. Pretty much all nuts and seeds contain omega-6. So things like sunflower, sesame, rape, peanuts, all nuts and seeds contain omega-6. And these omega-6 oils are beneficial for us if we eat them raw and if we eat them in small amounts. And you get enough omega-6 for a normal person with no deficiencies. You get enough omega-6 in a handful of nuts or seeds every day, or a teaspoon or two of their raw, virgin, uncooked nut or seed oils. But there is a problem with omega-6. Most people have too much omega-6 in their diet compared to omega-3, and that will negatively affect your cell membranes. So the current scientific thinking is that we need about a 1-to-1 ratio of omega-3 to omega-6. So if you're eating a lot of omega-6, huge amounts of nuts and seeds, you're going to need to either take more omega-3 fish oil or eat more oily fish. The second and more serious problem with omega-6 oils is that we are getting in our diets a lot of toxic omega-6 oils, and these are basically oils which have been refined or heated. So if you go out and you spend a load of money on extra virgin omega-6 oils, like for example extra virgin cold pressed sunflower oil, but you fry with it, you are creating a toxic trans fats. And trans fats are something that are created when we heat omega-6 oils, and they are very toxic to our cell membranes because they impair nutrients coming in and toxins going out of the cell. All supermarket oils that do not say virgin cold pressed on the label, all supermarket oils except olive oil and coconut oil, they have all been deodorized, heat treated and prepared in such a way in the factory as to give them a really long shelf life so they don't go off. And then those oils or fats are incorporated into a lot of processed foods that people might buy. So shop bought cakes, biscuits, buns, chocolates, ready meals, jar sauces, even healthier things like hummus. They can have a lot of sneaky, cheap omega-6 heat treated oils in them, and those are toxic for your cell membranes. Other sources of toxic trans fats would be things like crisps, chips, anything deep fried or fried in vegetable oil. So we should really be trying to avoid toxic omega-6 oils as far as possible, and you're going to need to start reading labels on products to do that, or else cook everything from scratch and don't eat anything out of packets. So what are the other oils that it's important to know about? Well, there's another class of oils which we don't, strictly speaking, need in our diet because our body can make them, but they're incredibly good for us. And those are monounsaturated fatty acids. And those are found in extra virgin olive oil and also in avocados if you eat them raw. And this monounsaturated fatty acids, if you eat it raw, it's really high in polyphenols and vitamin E, so helps your heart, helps you stay young and beautiful for as long as possible, and really is very good for your health generally. And extra virgin olive oil is something that you can incorporate into cooking. Don't heat it to more than 100 degrees centigrade, so you can use it in soups and stews and casseroles, but if you want to fry or saute something, you're much better either using a little bit of virgin olive oil along with a little bit of water, put in whatever you want to soften it into your pan, put a lid on and let it steam fry. Or best of all, use a different oil which is not damaged by heat, and that would be things like extra virgin coconut oil or even a little bit of butter. And that brings me on to the next thing, which is how people often ask me about saturated fats. So saturated fats are basically animal fats and also coconut oil, but animal fats, especially things like butter, are not all bad. We need a tiny amount of saturated fat in our diet, so if you have a little bit of butter on your bread now and again, that's absolutely fine. And if you eat a little bit of red meat, that's absolutely fine. But saturated fats are needed for cell membrane function in small amounts. And people are afraid to eat saturated fats because they worry about cholesterol. So when people have very low cholesterol in their diet, their liver makes more cholesterol. So cholesterol isn't hugely dependent on diet. And the problem in heart disease is not that we have cholesterol, which is essential for us to make our hormones or for our brains to function properly, but that cholesterol is being damaged because our bodies are in a very inflamed state, and it is damaged cholesterol that contributes to blockages in your arteries and your veins. So in a nutshell, if you're eating omega-3 oils, which you need in your diet, Try and cook your fish at low temperatures as possible, so not fried or deep fried. If you're eating tinned fish, don't eat it canned in low-grade oils, eat it canned in water, or even brine if you can't get tinned in spring water. Aim for about a handful of nuts and seeds in their raw state every day. And when you want to heat oils, use extra virgin coconut oil or a small amount of butter, or if you're using very gentle cooking, extra virgin olive oil. Try and stay away from shop bought products that have vegetable oils or any oils in them unless they are a raw product and it states raw extra virgin on the label. Hope you found this helpful. Hope you didn't get lost along the way or find it too long and boring. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you again.